All right. Welcome, everybody, to the next Truck Talk podcast. Today we are joined with a couple people from Sand Hills. We have Mitch Helman, sales manager from AuctionTime, and Scott Lubischer, who is the sales manager on the TruckPaper side. So we want to welcome them both to the podcast today. And we'll also be joined by Mike Gardecki from TransWest, and I am Steve Bootsma with Vander. So welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Welcome aboard.
If we kick it off here, if you guys would give a little background on yourselves, that would be great.
You bet. Go ahead, Mitch.
Yeah, no, as Steve said, Mitch Helman, I oversee the auction, all the auction side of the business at Sand Hills. I'm actually on the road this week. I'm traveling with one of my reps out in Minnesota, visiting a bunch of auctioneers, so I'm doing this from the car. Hopefully service keeps up here, yeah, I've been with the company 22 years, now. You know, I cut my teeth as a sales rep in the tractor house side, and then jumped ship quite a few years ago to oversee our whole auction products. And you know, Scott and I both carry quite a few hats. So even outside of that, deal with a lot of the market data, a lot of the analysts on Wall Street, some of the Bank of America things that you may have seen with some of the webinars we've done, and Bloomberg stuff. And so Scott helps out a lot with those too. Take it, Scott.
You bet. So yeah, Scott Lubischer. I manage TruckPaper. I've been with Sand Hills for 26 years, and like Mitch, I've worn a lot of hats across the years. I was in the sales side for quite some time. I was on our corporate side and kind of development for a while, and today I manage TruckPaper. So in that 26 years, it's been a big growth. It's good to see all parts of everything. I probably have the most knowledge on working with the dealerships and what they're looking for. And we built a lot of tools to accommodate what the dealers are looking for. So VIP, previously called Fleet Evaluator, VIP Plus is what we had kind of rebranded that to today. But that's been a right-hand tool for a lot of people, and it kind of uses a lot of the data that Mitch had talked about, and helps people put true values on stuff. So it's been a big tool with that, and something that we use every day in the truck market. So
I can say from personal experience that I use the VIP daily. I'm always looking up when I'm doing trade values or looking at purchasing units, either outright or from another dealer or whatever. It's been a very useful tool, that's for sure. And I like that you can go back in the history too and look at some of the other similar units, because every once in a while you get one of those one-offs, and it's nice to be able to go and find that one back too. So
you bet.
Well, a lot of exciting things going on in the marketplace right now. We just had our Kansas City Golf event last week, and Scott, you spoke to our dealer group there, and again, we appreciate your involvement with that, and just TruckPaper and AuctionTime in general with all the activities through the Used Truck Association. So big shout out to you guys. But we talked last week just some of the things going on in the freight market right now and the capacity. Maybe you want to kind of take us from there?
Sure. Yeah, I'll just share my screen here if that's okay with everybody. And
yep.
Let me know if you guys can see that.
We got it.
Okay. So yeah, let's jump in where Steve kind of segued me in here into the freight demand and capacity. And this is from the DAT group out there. So this isn't Sand Hills data, but certainly just as important into the market. So I really want to kind of just look at the year, looking year over year from May 26 from 25 there. I mean, you see a lot of positives happening in the market there. And in fact, almost everything is positive out there except the spot truck posts out there. There's just a shortage of drivers and some of that. So that, downgrade in the market there, that minus 22% isn't necessarily a bad thing per se. I mean, I know everybody's looking for drivers, but it certainly means there's a lot of movement going on, a lot of freight to move and things happen in the marketplace. But you'll see, even just in the last week, just looking at today, I think we're pretty current here, June 1st through the 7th, and looking kind of over week essentially. Like even just spot truck posts are up 23%. Reefer spot rates are up almost 12%. So I mean, some good things happen in the market, and we've been waiting for these times out here to really catch what we were anticipating is going to happen in the market out here, and it's kind of hitting like clockwork. So, you take a look at just, several months here. We got March, April, May, June, and you kind of see the rates continue to climb out here. The unfortunate thing is fuel prices are kind of hedging against us a little bit, and probably have some factoring in why the prices are going up, obviously, right? I mean, the more overhead we have in these, the higher the rate we're going to charge. But certainly in June already, we're starting to see things kind of take off, and May was probably a little more pumped up. You have a holiday weekend in there, has a tendency, what I've seen at least, to affect the DAT data with taking a little bit of a day or two or a weekend and a few days out of that, Also, this kind of goes into the driver shortage and things like that. You're going to start to see just the van load to truck ratio. You want to see these ratios go up this way. So those, on that first chart in the upper left-hand corner, that orange, yellowish kind of line there is 2026. It's the blue one on the right chart, and then the one at the bottom is the purple one. All those have eclipsed the numbers from 24 and 25. And not only that, we're seeing a distinct, push up when it comes to van load to truck ratio and reefer load to truck ratio. Those are on a vertical climb out there. Flatbeds are a little bit different market and supply chain that manages, but certainly it's above all the other numbers. So these are good signs in the industry, and we like to see freight moving. I know we got several people in the industry that are really dedicated to freight, and I don't expect to say I'm an expert in it, but certainly I can see the data points and see the positivity in that. What we rely on is really the data that comes into TruckPaper out here. There's so much data that we have our eyes on. We work with 99% of every dealer represented by an OEM, all your big independents, and we do that across not only the truck and trailer industry, but across ag and construction as well. So it lends us to be kind of experts on data, just because the volume data that we have that comes into TruckPaper seemingly naturally. So when I take a look at the data here, this is really very current. We're just in the first part of June here, so this is ending. All the data I'm going to show you today is ending May of 26, so it's kind of the razor's edge. When we get towards the end of June, that data's starting to get 30 days old, but today we're looking at pretty current avenues. So this is just kind of an overview of some of the trucks out here. We're looking at day cabs, we're looking at sleepers, looking at medium duty. And as you see those top columns up there, I'm looking for more of the green boxes on here to really see like what the stars of the show are here when things are starting to move upward. So, auction is a very unique data point that some people look at as just a simple data point out there. But Mitch and I can attest to that when we see things move in the auction, it's a precursor getting ready to move in the retail market. So I call it voting with your wallet, so to speak. So people, it's a real-time indicator of what people are willing to pay, where the prices are at. If you start to see, volume going down, you start to see different things that way. Those are indicators in the market. So the market for trucks and trailers over the years, especially in that industry, has been very cyclical. We see these major peaks and then these big troughs, right? And we see that the OEMs will produce a lot of trucks, and to the point to where everybody says stop, we're over capacity, and then we kind of get to a point where there's too many trucks and the price drops down, and then all of a sudden we kind of get rid of those trucks, and that manufacturing year, which is usually like a 3 or 4 year cycle typically, we'll see all the production happen, and then those trucks kind of get old and worn out, and then those trucks come back into the used market after about that, especially for like sleepers, it'd be about that 350, 400,000 mile rate out there. However, that 350,000, 400,000 mile rate was something that was a typical historical number out there. Now we have guys running trucks into the 500,000-600,000 miles before they start to become a liability, in the fact that there's concerns about service work and downtime and things like that. So, but certainly the remarketing side of the industry out here is starting to see higher mileage trucks, just because people sat on their hands a lot throughout the COVID times, right? We had production of trucks out there that was a little bit lower, during COVID out here, and we kind of created a little bit of a deficit in trucks, and we're starting to see some of that today, and you'll start to see prices starting to raise up because of that. So a couple things I want to point on this page here, like the auction is about 4.6% just in the month, right? And when you take a look at like the auction year over year, it's only up 3.9%. So I mean, a lot of that, it was down a little bit, now it's up, but it came roaring back in May, and we're starting to see a big change in that. that's good news for you guys because you're going to start to see those prices increase in that marketplace out here. But I also look at that inventory, right? So inventory, we're down 3.3% on sleeper trucks from April to May. And for the year, we're down almost 20%. So there's a lot of trucks exiting the market. That's part of what that supply and demand, feels like. You start to see that supply go down. You'll see it pull an opposite string on that on price, and it'll start to go up in terms of that. So I really like the chart.
When you see big decreases like that, sorry, Scott, but I mean, like down 25% there, if you can go back to that last slide on the day cabs there. Yep. How long usually from the time you see that in a year over year do you forecast? You're seeing some increase in the auction value now and the pricing value, but is there a certain time period where you can kind of allocate like 16 months from such and such a date or?
There's a little bit of that, but really what it takes is like we're 25% down, but 25% down from what is the real question? Are we still at a high volume level? And we are a little bit more at a larger volume level in day cabs out there. So it's really important to kind of look at your 20% down from what level, 25% down from what level, and that's where you really start to see it. So you can get down into like that 10,000 sleeper truck area. That's where things start to kind of react coming up, because we've had 40,000 sleeper trucks in the market kind of at a peak one time, and we lost those in a short amount of time. And I've got a chart here in a couple slides. I can show you what that looks like, but it'll kind of give you an indicator, and I could probably answer that a little better when I get to that slide too. So.
Okay, perfect.
So looking at
one thing to kind of just to piggyback, and Scott will show that, but prior to COVID, auction values, and it didn't matter if it was trucks, construction, ag, anything, almost react almost immediately to inventory levels, up or down. COVID kind of threw a wrench in that, and I think we're kind of getting back to maybe hopefully some normal where we're starting to react more towards that. But yeah, take it, Scott.
Absolutely. Yeah, you bet. Good point. And then we look at this kind of regionally too. So this again is just sleepers, and we're kind of looking at where the market's at here. You'll start to see like inventory percentages like year over year, month over month, and you can look at those regionally out here. The year over year per region out there, it looks like Northeast takes the cake in terms of the most down year over year at 26%. The entire market's down about 20.8%. We look at that, but again, like when you look at these auction prices out there in that month over month, that market leading coming down so quickly is also leading in terms of the auction values going up even more quickly out there at 6%. So we're starting to see that auction reaction there. It's starting to pick it up in the asking prices month over month. The Northeast also leads that at 3.8%. But on average out here, you kind of see the far right side column on the grand total over there. Asking prices year over year, we stopped going down, and we basically were up a point year over year right now. And month over month, we're up, 3 times that amount, 4 times that amount almost. We're starting to see those changes happening right now. Our job, and the reason we put this data out there, is to get people to react quicker. Working with our data team and developing VIP, one of the most unique things that we saw, like with our data science team, was how long it takes dealers to react when the market changes. That's the definition of why these reports are out here. We're trying to put the data in front of people. I had a very large dealership group that, thousands of locations that I offered some advice to at one point, saying, hey, we're starting to see the market change. And that particular customer called me and a couple months later, and I think he said, hey, it's the $40 million man. And I kind of threw me for a loop, but they had saved about $40 million just in removing inventory by adjusting their prices down just a little bit, to kind of catch that market before it really dropped off. So, I mean, they mitigated their losses by looking at market reports and understanding what we're doing, and listening to some reason out there and making the adjustments. Other people didn't make some of those adjustments that I talked to with that, and we saw kind of the effects with some aging on that, and they're constantly chasing the price. They lower their prices and where they maybe could have the month before, and then it, receded another, 3 or 4 points in there, and they just kind of kept chasing it. Well, eventually those 3 to 7% drops out there start to add up. Before you know it, you're 20, 25% down from what you could have had 6 months ago. It's a coulda, shoulda type effect, right? So this is that chart I was talking about, Steve. This is really an important piece of what we do. This green line here for supply is kind of showing those peaks and valleys, right? When we see like the peak that we had in the end of 2020 here when COVID kind of hit, we were at a kind of the perfect storm. We had a glut of inventory in the marketplace out there. That's nearly 40,000 sleeper trucks. And from October of 2020 to about the third quarter of 21, fourth quarter of 21, we bottomed out on inventory about 10,000 trucks. So 30,000 trucks left the marketplace, and they weren't producing a lot of trucks, and there's supply chain issues and a lot of different things going on that happened at that point in time. What happened to price? Well, price went from an average of about 40,000 when there was a glut of inventory, all the way up to almost $80,000, per truck. So I call that the time when sales guys kind of had a little bit of a God complex, right? It was just taking orders at that point. Guys would call in, is a truck available? Yep, I'll take it. So they were order takers at that point. But, and it hurt a little bit on the backside of that because salesmen had to relearn how to sell in some cases because, now you had to go through and barter and fight and scrap for the deal and compete, and that's what, there's kind of some lasting effects from COVID where people thought this business was just that easy, right? We just happened to be in that market. So when you look at that arrow that I placed on here, the red arrow showing where the supply is at, the supply is just falling off a cliff here yet. That's what some of that data is showing, but that inventory that's down 3.3% in the month out there is starting to have some effects on the price. So it first of all leveled the price, and you kind of see that blue line leveling, and now it's kind of starting to turn up a little bit. The only real bump we had before that was like we had a little bump with the election. There was just a lot of people hooping and hollering that's going to be a good market out here, and the market kind of reacted a little bit that way. But now we're starting to see like some real turn from what I can see in the marketplace. A chart that people don't use very often is inside of our market reports. And by the way, our market reports are accessible on TruckPaper.com. You can go up to the top and there's just a button up there called Get Market Reports. You can sign up for these and it'll send you these reports every month as well. But I drew this red line on here to show just how unique what we're experiencing today is. We haven't seen this since third quarter of 21 at this level. This indicates the amount of trucks that the inventory that's leaving the market, but also aren't being replaced. Right. So it's good when trucks are leaving the market, but if they're replaced, you're kind of at a par. So this shows that the clip of removal is 38.6% in this marketplace. And we've only eclipsed that one time in the third quarter of 21. So it's kind of a unique side of the business and should be a key indicator that, hey, things are getting pretty good because we're getting dangerously low on inventory out here, which is going to put some pressure on price.
Scott, any idea what's driving that?
I honestly think it's historical. I don't think we produced a lot of trucks in the marketplace, really since COVID. There were supply chain issues, and it kind of put a little bit of guardrails on us in terms of overproducing trucks, but there wasn't a lot of like pre-order and different things as you guys probably see in your business, right? There's not a lot of that going on, which we'd had previously, but a lot of it, came through tariffs. It came through, the freight rates were a little bit down and struggling out there to where we had some issues in those times. And honestly, the price of a truck went through the roof, right? You had tariffs implementing in there. You've got, EPA, factors that are factoring into these trucks, which are increasing prices as well. But eventually, goods still have to get from point A to point B. So eventually these trucks that have too many miles on them have to be replaced. And everybody's kind of waited, which wasn't, anything we didn't see coming. Everybody kind of waited to the 27 emissions side of it out there, to say, okay, now we're going to start buying some new trucks. So we didn't see many, OEMs, even though they don't want to tell you this, they weren't running at capacity. They weren't running some days, so, there was a lot of trucks that they were not producing in that time frame, which has kind of created a little bit of a gap in the marketplace. But I think that people are starting to buy new trucks. There's a lot of trucks sitting too, guys, like 25 and 26 new trucks that really just started going out, since about January of this year, right? People started buying that stock because it's like, hey, that's a 25 truck or a 26, but it's pre-emission and, it's capable and it's cheaper. It doesn't have all the extra cost on it, and guys were discounting those trucks. So that's what kind of started to feed some of that inventory burst out there. But eventually those are going to run out. A lot of guys are kind of running out of new trucks or getting to that point to where they'll have to be getting new trucks off the line, and that's what the OEMs are preparing for. So we kind of visualize this individually on trucks out there. And this is our tool, VIP Plus. I've stripped some of the information off this so we can't show whose truck this is, so I don't get in any hot water with a particular customer. But, It kind of shows what Steve talked about at the start of this, the historical side of the market here. We saw that bump. You can see it in 22, and from 21 to 22, there was appreciation happening in the market. And in 22, it started to kind of depreciate and it kind of fell off. So if you bought a truck in 23, you needed to sell it fairly quickly. If you waited, 30, 45 days, the market was receding and your margin is receding, right? These green dots over here on the right-hand side represent the customer's pricing out here. So the customer on this particular truck for 6 months was, a little bit high on that price. And then, they lowered it for the last 2 months and kind of now the market's come up and met their price. They're about right at the number. But I kind of covered a little bit with that box, but I wanted to show you like in January of 27, that price is going to go from where we see it today at a market value of like almost 53,000. It'll get up to about 58,000. So there's a little bit of a bailout period there that's going to come out where trucks are going to appreciate a little bit because of that lack of supply. And you start to find, a decently mileage truck. This is a 565,000 mile truck, but certainly that truck still fits the bill for a driver out there to where they can still get some use out of that. And we're going to see those prices kind of come up. But this customer's had this truck for 235 days. They're 5% above the market right now on it, which is probably a sellable price. But certainly if they kept their price steady, the market's going to come up and meet them, maybe even exceed where their price is at. So it's very important to mitigate your losses by taking some wins on this side, and some of the ones that you're really buried in, you can start to kind of get through that. But I've been doing this long enough that if you just sit on things too long, it's better to get rid of some of these trucks and cash flow those and put that money into another truck that can make you money. This is really the essence of what this tool is trying to contribute here for you.
So any dealer advertising right now with you has the ability to pull that up on their inventory.
Absolutely. It's right in the Sandhills cloud. All of their inventory is instantly priced in there.
One thing on that too, Scott, just since you got a lot of dealers who will listen to this, you can actually change the price up there too. You may show them there. So you can use these on an individual basis and change it, if needed.
Yeah. Once you click on that price, you can rekey a price in. When you click off, it automatically saves a listing.
Yep.
It will save on the listing then too.
Yes. It'll update TruckPaper.
Yeah, and VIP is right next to in inventory management. I mean, the pricing is right there when you're adding a listing as well. So we try to put the guide rails on you if your number in your head was a lot higher than what you thought the market was or a lot lower, you can adjust on the fly. We try to put the value in front of you as you're typing the listing in. So we'll kind of move to the trailers, and I don't want to spend too much time, but I do catch a little bit of flack from trailer guys out here. You guys constantly talk about trucks, but as we know, the UTA is certainly involved in the trailer market as well. And this is that overview, 30,000-foot view of what's happening in the marketplace in dry vans, reefers, flatbeds, and drop decks. So again, current data here, but the one I really want to focus on is reefer trailers, right? So the inventory year over year is down 31.5% in reefer trailers. And the auction prices year over year are up almost 20%, so we're starting to see some good value there. The month over month auction price is up a point, but some things have happened there. Flatbed trailers auction year over year, is up 1.7%. So there's some things happening there. But certainly when you've got big fleets and different things, which we know a lot of our UTA members do, this is kind of the system to kind of give you that view of what your market's doing right now. Where you need to get aggressive on pricing and where you can kind of hold the line a little bit. So in trailers out here, I just really want to focus on the inventory in trailers out here. So I'm looking strictly at reefer trailers here because that was kind of the one that had the most movement. But month over month, we've seen some inventory coming into the marketplace in the Northeast. There's 10.5% that came in. There's 33% that came into South Central. So a big increase in that. And then in the West, we lost 21% of the inventory in a month's time out there. But overall, it's about a 3% down on that side of it. And then asking prices, are year over year up 7.5% roughly, and month over month they're down about a point, but have been holding steady. It's been a decent point out there. But the place where the most inventory has left the market out there is at that inventory sold up there is 41.9% left in the West. So there's been a lot of that in that western kind of quadrant of the market there. So I always kind of go with something to kind of break the ice, because this is what I had seen going into a lot of customers' offices for, I think I was a sales guy for probably about 12, 13 years. And I would go into an office, I would ask for a particular decision making, they'd be like, you could probably go in there and see if he has time for you, but he's locked himself in the office for a week. Well, what's he doing? Well, he's repricing all of his inventory. Well, when you reprice inventory today, what you end up doing is if you bought that, you might hedge your bet a little bit and try to make yourself look a little bit better. Even if you know the price is down, it's like, I'm not going to bring it down that much. Well, all you do is kind of delay selling that asset then if we're still 10 or 15% high on those units. So that's where we totally take the guesswork out of it and the emotion out of it with the VIP tool, and really, pulling comps and different things out there. There's still some value in looking at what the market's doing, but all of that's happening in the VIP side. We're looking at how that asset is equipped, the location that it's at, the current market. There's like 60 different metrics that we compare in the marketplace, from fuel prices to supply to demand, to foreign relations to oil prices, things like that. There's a lot of different factors that happen. And then within the VIP tool, today we can spit it out into a spreadsheet like this, but we're going to be adjusting this where it's going to be a little bit more of an interactive sheet instead of a spreadsheet, because we can do better than that. There's some interactive tools that we'll do where it kind of looks like a spreadsheet, but it's going to kind of be within the VIP tool. But today we pushed it out this way and kind of color coded it to show you exactly where your inventory is at. So any of you in the marketplace can go into VIP Plus, and you can see in that circle up there, you can click on this detailed pricing analysis, export your inventory out of the system with the prices here, and then it'll automatically give you a color code in column K over there that'll show you how much your price is above the market price. So we're basically comparing column J, your retail asking price, to column H, which is the VIP marketplace, was what the bring number should be on that particular asset out here. So that bring number on that first unit happens to be about 63% high, and that's the deepest red. And as you get down, there's some, kind of like a stoplight. There's some caution with the yellow, and there's some green with the go on there where the price is good and under market. The thing that I've been telling everybody, and it's the most important deal, and you'd be surprised on how many customers don't do it or how many sales reps go out and talk to them and they still don't implement that, is put your best foot forward on inventory. Your featured listings for sure. So anything that's featured in our display ads out there is also promoted to the top of the searches on TruckPaper.com. So it doesn't do any good to take a unit that's 52% high or 40% high and have us try to turn water into wine on that. What we're trying to do is make sure we get the best price units and put those in your featured spots. And you'll end up with selling a bunch of those, and your stats will go up and everything will increase because you've got the marketable stuff right at the top of the list. But it's one of those factors that it's a constant drive, because people are like, I'm really motivated to put this one in because it's 132 days aged. Well, I get it. It's 132 days aged, but it's still 25% high. So we're kind of spinning our tires a little bit when it comes to those prices out there. So I kind of added a couple of pages in here, what makes a good listing. We talked about this a little bit at the UTA event, kind of a best practices thing, so to speak. It's still, I guess, Steve, you and I had a conversation on this. It's like, how many people don't list prices today and how that frustrates you and other people out there. I mean, it frustrates the buyers wholeheartedly. They are looking for price, and if there's not a price on it, they assume that your price is too high. It's not that we're selling anything that unique in this industry, right? When I compare like what we have in the construction industry for a ton of different, makes and models for, let's just say something like a backhoe, and you move that into the truck market, there's really not that unique. We've got a handful of manufacturers. We've got a handful of relevant models in those manufacturers, right? And so we're all selling kind of the same thing, and price becomes viable out there. The only time I've seen a price not work is if somebody's got a big extended sleeper on it. It's all custom out and whatever else, where you can the truck kind of sells itself and people are going to call because it's that unique. But for the most part, when you get into fleet trucks and some long nose trucks out there, it's really not that unique in terms of what we have. So this happens to be an auction listing, but you'll see on here they've got 53 photos for that. That's a darn good tutorial that allows you to zoom in. You can see a gnat on the rim if you wanted to, if you insert a high quality photo. You've got videos. Those videos are what I call a sales funnel tool. They take your sales from taking let's say you got a buyer on the hook and it takes 3-4 days to generate videos, send them to them. whatever else. If they can see those videos right in there, that sales funnel becomes a lot shorter. And from the point of interest to the point of sale, it'll go a lot quicker if they can see all that. When they call, they're more interested. They're ready to go. They've seen that truck. They've heard it run. They've seen, any blow by when it starts, things like that. So those are the type of things that they're going to see on those things. But descriptions are key out there. We ask for a lot of descriptions because it helps with not only like the search engine metrics when somebody's searching for something on a Google site, but it also helps with a lot of the AI tools and things that we have developing in, and keyword searching and different things that we have within our trade sites like TruckPaper. So the featured listings, the ones that go in your print ad, that's what people assume they kind of pay for. However, it's kind of a multi-channel approach, right? Even though we charge, for a print, it's a factor of multi-channel because you get the featured listings are higher to the searches out here. And budget-wise, people start to look like, well, gosh, I don't want to run a very big ad, but I want all my inventory online. Well, the inventory that's in your ad is the stuff that's getting seen. So that the featured listings are the key component out there. And I took an example here of two very similar trucks. They're both 23 P389s. One of them's featured and one of them's not. So the top one being featured out there, detailed page views, which is when somebody clicks on it and goes through and looks at that entire truck, 1,477 compared to 7. And when it comes to impressions on that truck, which is just on a page where somebody was searching, and this is, by the way, just looking at a month. So there's 55,000 impressions that the top truck generated compared to 988 on the bottom. So you start to see there's click to calls on it. There's a lot more watch list ads and things like that are being added to those particular units as well. So featured listings are the key component, but not only featured listings, but the right priced featured listings are the key to success there. I produced a couple of examples. We use a platform called Tableau, which is basically, it's a data visualization. There's no human manipulation on this. It just consumes the data that you have, and it'll give you an indication of what you're doing. So these are some back-end tools that I have as a manager that I provide them to my sales reps to show to dealerships out there. You can kind of monetize what the featured listings only are doing. So this is simply looking at a customer that went from in the red circle at a full page to they added an additional page out there, which would be the green circle, and you can start to monetize. Well, how many featured listings did I sell, and what did my volume go up to? Well, in that red period there, that's about a 7-month period. They sold a little over $2 million in 5 months, so 2 months shorter in that green circle with a little bit larger spend out there. They went to $3.5 million. So, it was a big factor of how many units were being sold. There was 57 units sold in a 5-month period, just featured ones, compared to 40 in the 7-month period. So it kind of gives you some value on that. I ask dealers to look at that like a sales rep, because that's exactly what this is. And we've got a lot of sales reps that work for dealerships that are, let's say, that $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 range that aren't really producing much. And a full page in TruckPaper would be like a $50,000 salesperson out there. That $50,000 salesperson, if they can produce, $4 or $5, $6 million off something like that, that's the, how I ask to look at it. So it kind of moves from like a budget concept to more of like, what does it produce? Because at the end of the day, if you have a sales guy you're paying him $50,000 and he's making, $6-7 million for you, it's a pretty darn good sales rep, right? But so I try to factor that in because it's that important to a dealer's success. Adversely, we see it the other way when somebody tries to save a little bit of money and they decrease their spend. In this particular example out here, we had a customer who's pretty consistent. It's a fairly large customer. They had about 6 pages of advertising, and they dropped a couple of pages just to save a little bit of budget. But in a 6-week period, they saved about $11,000. But the volume, as you can see in that red circle of sold listing counts and market evaluation, went down so much that what happened there was they gave up $6.3 million in sales to save $11,000 in reality. So, it was a big chunk, because I'm looking at that little red circle, which is 6-week period out there. I'm looking just back 6 weeks and when they were up at a higher margin out there, a higher volume of featured listings, and a higher sort value, because the larger the ads that are bonded together creates a higher search value out there for you as well. So, but at the end of the day, it's little adjustments like that where they kind of come down from the top, and somebody says, we need to save a little bit on budget. Things are kind of tight. Well, they don't look at what that really does to the bottom line. They just think it's a budget line item. So we try to put this information in front of them so they're really taking into consideration the ripple effect that's going to have on volume. So I hate to do it, but a lot of times we come back and show them this report and they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, no, we're feeling it too. And I've been getting blown up by my boss on this. I don't know what's going on. But well, what it is that you guys kind of put yourself in a sour position. You're still making a heck of a lot of money, but the loss and that's just that deficit is recognizable even in a 6-week period. Real quick, just a couple introduction things that seemed to hit pretty well last week at the KC event. Our new vertical out there, it's like I had mentioned before, it's kind of a multi-channel approach. MD Trader we've taken like a lot of our vocational and work trucks and duplicated those onto a particular site out there called MD Trader. And MD Trader is going to just show you a lot of the work truck type assets out there. We're just so wide in TruckPaper that we like to have a better SEO, SEM result on these. So we're having good response with this. It's basically the same thing as TruckPaper, but it's focused on these trucks. We've done this across our ag and construction markets, kind of broke those out, and it's been just huge for people saying, oh yeah, now I'm not lost in the shuffle and just being filtered in there. And TruckPaper is a lot of sleeper trucks, a lot of day cabs, a lot of vans and reefers. Well, I want to, have a spot for my straight trucks and my cargo trucks and my service trucks and things, and that's what MD Trader is. So we charge for this a little differently, and certainly reach out to your rep to do that. We can offer some premium listings, or just we can feature a group out there. It's strictly an online platform. And then Fast Track Iron, I know this hit pretty well for everybody. When you're logged in as a dealer out there, every dealership, we vet you guys to make sure that when you're logged in, we've given you rights to Fast Track Iron to buy on wholesale out here. So as you see that arrow points to my name, I'm logged in as that. And when I'm logged in as that, a lot of benefits just come flying towards us here. So you'll see on this page here, I did a day cab search, and right on the top here in this first green box says FTI wholesale. You can move to that, and it's all the wholesale listings that people want to list. So you can list a retail price on an asset, and you can list a wholesale price on an asset, and that will launch the unit into Fast Track Iron into a closed network that only dealers can see. And that network is going to give you ability to view not only other units that are on wholesale, on Fast Track Iron wholesale, but it'll give you units that are pre-auction time. It'll give you units that are private party. So an end user that's selling an asset out there, he just doesn't know that his truck, he listed it pretty cheap. And everybody was looking through the middle of TruckPaper and looking at those photo listings to try to figure out, eyeball it to see which ones are a good deal. Well, we tell you which ones are a good deal, because this page will sort the assets by the best price. We use the VIP pricing tool against their price, and we sort them by the largest gap. So basically, what's the market value of VIP compared to what their asking value is, and the largest percentage gap in there are sorted at the top and then filtered down. So if somebody comes in and says, I'm going to offer a 5% discount from retail, and I'm right at VIP market, that's great. It's a good discount, or it's a discount, but it'll be way to the bottom of the searches because the best price units are going to sort to the top up here. And you can filter those as you see on the side. There's some faceted searching. You can look at units that are simply just like below VIP plus market value and things like that, and it'll start to filter those. Again, our system filters that for you automatically, but there's also a lot of tools that we've added into Fast Track Iron when you're logged in here. As you can see, I'm still logged in. We give a VIN guide. You can type a VIN in, and you can just kind of search to see if we've seen that truck before, if it's come through an auction, if it's been listed retail, different spots out there. We don't tell you who is listing at retail, but we'll show that it had been listed with us for 3 years, and it changed prices 15 different times. It'll give you mileage on there. If you see a unit that went through an auction 4 times in the past 5 months, it's probably a concern that's saying, well, this one, when they buy it, they put it right back on the auction. So what's going on with that? But that historical data is valuable. As you can see, this arrow kind of in the middle of the screen here, view historical records will give you the historical records where we've seen this truck before. If we've seen it at an auction, we've seen it come through on that auction and sell retail, and then it changed hands in retail, it changed states, more miles put on it. God forbid there's less miles on it. That would be a red flag. And there's different options up there within there, like market trends and everything you can run on these reports. So we've really chocked full our Fast Track Iron tools that we give our dealers when they're logged in. The best part of it is there's no cost to view. If you just want to look and come through here and look and buy trucks, we don't charge a dime for Fast Track Iron. If you wanted to post, we charge $25 a week. And that's just for a full endeavor of open up. You can list as many wholesale units as you want. You can put a wholesale price on everything if you want. And you can list all your units out there. The reason it's so cheap that we do that, we just charge $25 as kind of a nuisance fee. So you get that, and it reminds you get that invoice, and every month it reminds you, oh yeah, I do have the ability to list stuff on Fast Track Iron. It's just a good paper reminder to post things out here. So it's a lot cheaper than some other people that are dedicated to that market as well. So we've been putting our best foot forward, saying this is just a facet of the market, and we want to make sure that you guys are in the right position for that.
Scott, is that per unit $25?
No, you have an unlimited ability to list as many units as you want for $25. So you can, if you've got a fleet of 100 trucks, you want to put a wholesale price on all 100 trucks out there, it's $25 for the week total.
And question, like when things have automatic feeds from their websites, how will that affect, like, just because I'm in wholesale, so I'm not I don't touch the retail stuff, inventory. So if I post this on there as a wholesaler, will that every night kick back out, or does it just
I
stay?
mean, if you have a feed coming into us and you provide a wholesale price in that feed, we have a cell for that, and we just dedicate that cell to wholesale price, and you can drop that in. It immediately go into Fast Track Iron. So
But if we don't, so our wholesale inventory doesn't get included into your feeds at all. So I'm saying if I go on there as a dealer and just open that up and just manually add units, can I do that? And will it?
Well, the feed will override it. Unfortunately. Yeah, the feed will overwrite your wholesale price whenever your feed comes in. So it's set to daily. When that new price would feed in, it would overwrite that because the adjustments need to be made in the feed. Now, with your feed company, you could look at them and say, well, hey, I want to add wholesale prices into whatever inventory platform you're using that we're taking the feed from. If you have that wholesale unit, value in there where you're managing your inventory and it pushes to us, we can control that and accept that feed. And that would be the way to get those in. So whichever resource you're using out there would certainly be an option to talk to them about to push a wholesale value to us. So
awesome. Thanks.
We're going to move into the AuctionTime side. So I'm going to let Mitch kind of take over from here if he's still available.
Yeah,
online.
No, I'm still here, guys.
All right. Good deal. I didn't know if you were, I know you're driving, so.
Yeah, no, we're cruising out here in the Minneapolis area, today. So, but, guys, fire away with questions. I know we've been on here for a little bit already, so I can buzz through this, fairly quick, but yeah, AuctionTime, obviously, it's a timed auction platform, that's integrated within, TruckPaper, MD Trader, Tractor House, Machine Trader, all our Sandhills brands, as a whole. We have weekly auctions. We have, that you can be a part of on any Wednesday and Thursday, or we do have special events pretty much every day of the week, outside of those core events, for standalone sales. Yeah, one thing we wanted to kind of dive into, and Scott, it's the pre-auction time side. I know, Steve, you had asked a question earlier about, dealers getting involved with auctions and fleets, using them more and bringing them back as part of their kind of liquidation cycle. And we are starting to see, not so much on the dealer side, we have on the fleet side. I personally, in my department and group, with all my reps, we work with auctioneers all over the country, and we work specifically with the fleets, to help liquidate those assets. Scott's got some examples of our pre-auction time process up right now, and how this works, and and honestly, why I think it's important to build into, for a dealership, into kind of like your life cycle approach to keep inventory turn every quarter. But with the pre-auction time process, you're able to put a unit out on the wholesale side and the retail side at the same time with an auction end date that you're pre-selecting right out of the gate. For example, you get a Cascadia 126, it's been sitting on your guys' lot for, 200 days. You see you are a little bit overpriced, but you guys want to get this down the road. You say, hey, we're going to sell this at auction in 6 weeks, but we're going to utilize this pre-auction time process. What happens is you go in there and you adjust your retail and your wholesale price to as aggressive as you can possibly be on that. The wholesale price then automatically gets sent out to every dealer in the country that we've identified is in the market for or interested in buying, in this case, Cascadia 126s, with an email that you see right here. It's got the buy it now price, and then it also has an auction roll date. So you're able to, with that, the price is either right or wrong for, each individual dealer that sees it. And then they have the option, if it's wrong, to add it to their watch list so they get notifications when that unit does come up for sale. On the flip side, we move those listings to the top of the TruckPaper listings. We don't disclose to the general public that it's slated to go to auction, but they see it as a very aggressive retail priced unit, typically below, what retail value is and what dealers, have been transacting on the TruckPaper side. Scott, go to that next slide. This is a unique look right here at just the success rate of the pre-auction time side, and it goes back. Looking at these results when I explained some of it, goes kind of back to what Scott was showing with the market reports and just how the truck industry has been, it's been getting better and inventory is falling down, and auctions have been producing good results. But this pre-auction time process, really has allowed you to have a lot more control before units ultimately get to auction with a potential upside. So just this year alone, recently in the last few months, we've had 970 units, sleeper trucks, get posted out on this pre-auction time process. 652 have sold. So we're batting a 67% success rate on this. Scott, if you can kind of show that 33.16%, that is the average wholesale price that these are transacting at above the VIP auction value. And so it's bringing more than what auction is, substantially more, and it's transacting in an average of 21 days. And so this pre-auction time process can be up to 3 months long, but most guys are leaving it out there for about a month. And in this scenario right now with just all sleepers, it's taken roughly 21 days, and overall transacted price is 33% above auction, which is pretty substantial and shows the power of this process and what TruckPaper can do.
Well, there's, like you mentioned earlier, Mitch, there's several thousand Cascadia trucks for sale out there today, and you want to be part of like that elite group of that first 20 or 30 units out there. Those would be the ones that are on pre-auction time, right? So yeah, those units on pre-auction time are getting the best visibility, even more than a guy running a 20-page spread, right? It's going to be in front of those listings. So that's the key component to what's happening there on those listings, and getting those driven. But when you look at auction time, it's like, I don't know if there's a bunch of stuff in the auction. I mean, we have a great auction every week, but it's like when you think about it, nearly 70% of the units don't even make it to the auction. They sell on private treaty because of the pre-auction time process. So I always tell all of our customers, it's kind of like Uber is to taxi, right? It's kind of revolutionized the technology on what's happened with that, so it's been kind of a unique circumstance with that.
Yeah.
And the last thing we had for you guys was for the auction values out here. We have auctionvalues.com, and you can go and look at all the auction results. You can do any filtering. It's not just our auction results. It's any auction result we can collect out there. And all those auction values are out here on the site. You can go through and search those, but you go to auctionvalues.com. You can search all of, you want to look at Cascadias that had sold recently in Florida. You can go and look at those and kind of see what those prices are bringing. Mitch, I know you had one piece you wanted to talk about is like adding in an auction partner.
Yeah, one thing, because obviously, my group, we work with auctioneers all over the country, and, they specifically, work with a lot of dealers, across the ag, construction, and transportation side, and fleets. And so, if there's a scenario where you guys have trade-ins or, you got some trucks that you just don't want your name associated to, it's a problem issue and it just needs to go away. These auctioneers can represent these trucks for you, and run it through this pre-auction process, and do the legwork for you, and still handle everything. So, you can work with your TruckPaper rep on that, and then they get in touch with my group as well and figure out who would be a good local fit to provide you that kind of service. But that pre-auction time process, it is so powerful, and whether it's your current inventory, trade-ins, whatever assets they are, it's something if I was running, a business, or if I was an auctioneer representing fleets, and I would honestly run every unit through it, that is slated to be an auction unit, because, you're able to cost average up net returns and return more money in your pockets.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive. And Scott had mentioned last week that 2/3 of them were selling before they even hit the auction. I mean, it's a pretty good turnaround. I mean, it's giving you good visibility too. I mean, there's a reason they're selling sooner. People are finding them.
And the truck market is like hands down the hottest right now. We're about 50% in the construction side right now, not making it into auction, and a little bit less on the ag side. But trucks it just like it goes to what those market reports have shown. It's getting hotter out there.
Good stuff. Mike or Scott, again, any additional questions for these gentlemen?
Honestly, it just sounds like we're in a good spot in the market as far as the market goes.
Yeah, I'm bullish on the market today. I've been trying to get in front of as many people as I can just to make sure that they're reading the market reports the correct way, because we see it in our VIP tool, we see it in the data, we've seen it historically, and we kind of see it coming forward. So unless there's something that really gives the market a hiccup out here, I think we're going to be in a pretty good spot. I mean, we had a darn good market. Steve and I were talking about this kind of prior to we had a darn good market going in January and February. People had record months, and all of a sudden fuel kicked in, and we had a little bit of a Middle East, conflict firing up, pushed fuel prices. People got, when there's uncertainty in the marketplace, it creates uncertainty in buyers, right? So, and that's what we'd kind of seen out there. But at a certain point in time, trucks are aging. You can only put so many miles on these trucks. We've already pushed the red line miles on these trucks, and now we're getting to the point where they have to be returned, and we need, emission type trucks out here. So we're kind of fighting through that, but I feel pretty good about it where we're at in the marketplace today. And I feel pretty good about TruckPaper's position, to help you guys, sell everything. And today might be a time where you put a little more money towards the market out here because you want more featured listings. You want to be aggressive on that. It's just like when the Dow is an opportunistic way. Mitch and I are nerds when it comes to talking about what's, stocks and things that are happening out there. And when we see the market downturn out there, we're inserting more money into the market, and we're high-fiving each other. And then when the market goes the other way, we just don't talk very much because we're a little more sad, But today it's one of those places where you should be putting more at it, to, dig out some of the trucks you might add in there. And even if you had to take a few more losses, you're going to mitigate the losses a little bit today to get some of that through and renew that money into some more marketable units as well, and kind of start to refresh that inventory.
And I sure appreciate you adding some of the trailer information. I think sometimes maybe as a dealer we take that for granted a little bit, but I was excited to see the platform trailers were on the increase in price. I mean, that to me with higher fuel and higher interest rates, but platform trailers are kind of, when they start moving, that's indicative of just infrastructure going on, right? I mean, something's getting built. Well, something gets built later on, it needs to be furnished. It needs to have all the other stuff that gets hauled out with vans and box trucks. And so that was something that caught my eye there today. So.
Yeah, and you look around your cities and you see how much road construction's going on. I mean, we ran into a ton of it coming from Omaha to Kansas City, and then I talked to a few people at the show about it, and it's like our whole city's tore up. I mean, there's a lot of infrastructure spend going on right now, which is good for the market, and that lends to those flatbed trailers, so.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both for your time again, and your company as well for the support to the Used Truck Association. We really do not take that for granted.
You bet.
One thing I do want to add real quick is for people who are doing wholesale out there like I do, and I'm no longer involved in the retail side. I got to sit and see most of this in Kansas City when Scott gave the presentation there, but catching back up again as you were doing it here, there's quite a bit of tools that we have that I didn't even know were accessible to me. My company has them as well through you guys, but it's definitely worth taking a look at if you're on the wholesale side and not actively involved in retail, at some of the markers that these guys have done and can provide for you, give you a little peace of mind. So thank you for going over all that.
You bet.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thanks everybody. Have a great day, and thanks to all our listeners again for joining us.
Yep. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate the UTA
appreciate
and
it, guys.
everybody's business.